Good morning once again. We want to continue our talks on suttas. As I mentioned yesterday, today we are going to focus our mind on Sabbasva Sutta. It has been translated as all cankers or all canes. Asava are the intoxicants. I call it intoxicants because asava in Pali and Sanskrit is used for something that give you a kick. You brew it for a long time in a brewery. From time immemorial in samsara, as human beings, animals, divine beings, one life after another, we build up these asavas. Asavas, in fact, are called influxes. When you brew something, you know, when you brew beer, alcohol, any kind of alcohol, you get all kind of ingredients, put in a jar, bury in the ground, keep it for a long period of time to ferment it. When it is fermented and take out and filter it and you drink, that gives you a real kick. So that is called asava. With our awareness or not, without our awareness, we build this asavas in our samsaric existence. Therefore, at any moment when they pop up in our mind, they are very, very powerful. You cannot control it. Any tiny little thing can make you upset, angry, irritated. That kind of mental state is called asava. We can see this asava coming up in people's mind very often, and they cannot control. That's why they have all kind of arguments, fights, and so forth. Anyway, that is the meaning of asava. In this discourse, Buddha says, on one occasion, Buddha said, as usual, he addressed bhikkhus and said, "Bhikkhus, I shall teach you discourse on the restraint of all trains." All trains I put as influxes, asavas. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say. Say it. Then Buddha said, he gives the summary at first. Because I said that the destruction of chance is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and sees. That is what's happening. You don't see asava rising, and you flare up. You burst because you are not mindful, and you let it happen. and you make a very ugly scene. When you know and see, you don't do that. Who knows and sees what? Wise attention and unwise attention. When one acts unwisely, unreasoned taints arise and arisen taints increase. That's what happens. When one attends wisely, unreasoned taints do not arise and arisen taints are abandoned. So, understanding is number one. Understanding of our own mental state. So we are the ones who are trying to train. We cannot train others. We must learn to train ourselves. In order to train ourselves, we always must keep looking at our own minds. This is very wonderful vipassana instruction, vipassana practice. In mindfulness practice, we always train ourselves to see us introspectively, see inside. Because then Buddha gave the summary. It's a wonderful this discourse where Buddha has given summaries at the beginning and he summed up everything at the end in this discourse. This is the summary at the very outset of the discourse. Because there are traits that should be abandoned by seeing. That is one. There are traits should be abandoned by restraining. Number two. There are traits that should be abandoned by using. Number three. There are traits that should be abandoned by enduring. Number four. There are traits that should be abandoned by avoiding. Number five. There are traits that should be abandoned by moving. Number six. And there are traits that should be abandoned by developing. Number seven. So he gave 7 steps, 7 ways of. Number one is seeing. Then Buddha explained each of them in some detail. What then should be abandoned by seeing? Here, because an untaught ordinary person who has no regard for the noble ones is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, who has no regard for true men. Yesterday also I mentioned, true men is really ambiguous. One can ask if there is untrue men also. It should be replaced with the persons with integrity. Persons with integrity. And is unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma. Does not understand what things are fit for attention and what things are not unfit for attention. Since that is so, he attends to those things unfit for attention and he does not attend to those things that fit for attention. What is ordinary unskilled person? Word used in Pali is Putujjana. Putujjana is the one who is exposed to all defilements. He can commit all kinds of wrong things, unwholesome things. He can brew greed, hatred, and delusion. He is careless. He is lazy. All kind of defilements can build up in that person's mind. That person is called Putujjana. Putujjana. So, when Buddha gave this summary of what ordinary person does, that person does not pay attention to the things that should be paid attention to, and one should pay attention to wrong things. Then Buddha explained it. What are the things unfit for attention and that he attends to? There are things such that when he attends to them, unnourishing taste for sensual desire arises in him, and the arising sensual desire increases. Unnourishing taste of being arises in him, and arising taste of being increases. Unnourishing taste of ignorance arises in him, arising taste of ignorance increases. That is mean, asava in Pali, they are called kamasava, bhavasava, avidyasava. Kamasava, sensual desire increases. Sensual desires arising through eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. These are called Pancha Kama Guna. 5 codes of sense pleasures. 5. And that is called the influxes come through these doors. The eyes are called doors. Eye door, ear door, nose door, tongue door, body door. These doors are all wide open. They are wide open. So anytime thieves can enter. When you don't close the door and lock it, thieves can come enter the mind. Therefore, they are called doors. Chakku dwara, sota dwara, jiva dwara, Bhavana dwara, kaya dwara, and so forth. Dwara, doors. Doors we keep open. We forget to close the doors when you go out. These thieves can enter, our enemies can enter. That is called kamasava. Then there are the mind also open for bhavasava. Bhavasava, I mentioned yesterday, bhava. There are 2 kinds of bhava. One kind of bhava is called continuous thoughts arising in our mind. Continuous thoughts full of greed, hatred, and delusion. They are called kamma, and in Pali it's called kamma bhava. Kamma bhava means all kind of wholesome, even unwholesome, and even wholesome thought arises in our mind. And these thoughts have the potential of reproducing. They have the gene, spiritual gene, to reproduce, just like any other reproductory process has the genes. Similarly, these thoughts that have, metaphorically speaking, genes to reproduce potential, and therefore they are called karma bhava. And then, of course, when you plant these seeds in the mind, in consciousness, the field of rebirth is generated. Vijnanam bijam, kammam khettam, and tanna sineho. Craving is the water. So we put these things in the mind, and then of course they will germinate in next life. That is called bhavasava. Called kamasava, bhavasava. Bhavasava, two types, kama bhava, vipaka bhava. Then avidya, avidya means ignorance. It is called here a sentence of ignorance arising, and the sense of ignorance increases. When you do not pay attention and do not restrain our senses, then this can happen. Therefore, these things unfit for attention that he attends to, and what are the things fit for attention that he does not attend to? There are things such that when he attends to them, the unarisen sense of sensual desire does not arise in him. And arisen sensual desire is abandoned. And unarisen sense of being does not arise in him, and arisen sense of being is abandoned. The unarisen ignorance does not arise in him, and arisen ignorance abandoned. And there are things fit for attention that he does not attend to. By attending to those things unfit for attention, and by not attending to the things fit for attention, both unarisen things arise in him and arisen things increase. Now, this is one. Then, this is how attains unwisely. This is how he attains unwisely. And this is what you call six kind of ways of paying attention unwisely. Unwise attention means ayoniso manasikara. Ayoniso manasikara. We will explain this little later if we have time. Was I in the past? Now, before I go through this, I want to mention that when one attains enlightenment, when attain the fourth jhana and attain the supernatural powers, gain supernatural powers, suppose one attains the fourth jhana and then practice supramundane practices, attain extreme entry, once returner, never returner, and arahanthood, then that person would be able to recall his previous life. That's called Pubbhe Nivasa Anusati Jnana. With that purity of mind, if one recalls his previous life, he thinks not in this way. This is unenlightened person's way of thinking. So therefore we must not confuse this with the other. Pubbhe Nivasa Anusati Jnana, the special knowledge of seeing previous lives is very pure and clean without this kind of thinking. This kind of thinking, they think with unmindful attention. The one who attains full enlightenment and recalling his previous lives does so with mindful attention. Vipassana jnana. This is not vipassana jnana. And therefore we must make the distinction, understand the distinction between these two. Because when we say this, somebody can question, how about those who have attained enlightenment recalling his previous life? In order to clarify that doubt, I mention this right now. This unmindful attention, the person who does mind attention unwisely, ayoniso manasikara, paying unmindful attention, was I in the past. Here I is the person assumes that there is I, quote, unquote, I. The one letter I. Permanent, eternal, everlasting, unmutable, something. And he said, was I in the past, that particular I? Was I not in the past? What was I in the past? What was I in the past means whether I was a Brahmin, Kshatriyas, Shudras, Vaishyas, white man, black man, yellow man, pink man, brown man, Asian, African, like that. Was I an African? Was I an American? Was I Sri Lankan? Like that. What was I? How was I in that part in the life? Was I rich, poor, ugly, beautiful, educated, uneducated, like that? How was I? Also I, that particular I. Having been what? What did I become in the past? Having been poor, have I become rich? Have I been rich? Have I become poor? Have I been uneducated? Have I been educated? Like that. He thinks of his status in previous life. Shall I be in the future? The same way. Shall I not be in the future? What shall I be in the future? How shall I shall be in the future? And that is about the future. Then, having been what shall I become in the future? Or he is inwardly perplexed about the present. Thus, am I? That means, am I? That means I exist in here. That particular I exists here. Or am I not? That I does not exist here. What am I? How am I? where has this been come from? Where this I, always remember this personality, they think that I exist in 20 different ways. For instance, I give you one example so that you can apply the knowledge to see how this 20 become. Form, this body, form is Rupam Attato Samanupasati. See the body as I, Rupavantang Vartana, the I as a form. Form is in the I, or I is in the form. Let me repeat it. I and form are identical. Attato Samanupasati. And then form has I, or form is in the I, or I is in the form. Form and I are identical. I has the form. Number two, form is in the I is in the form. Form. So you apply this to feeling, perception, volitional formations, and conception. You have 5 aggregates. For each aggregate, there are 4 ways of assuming, attributing I. 4 ways. Therefore, there are 20 types of I. So the person thinks where this I came from which life? From divine life, human life, animal life, ghost life, goblet life, spiritual life, spirit life, and from which life this I came. Where will I go? Or where will it go after death? Where this I will go? Not sure. This is the way. I think here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 16 ways. 16 ways. And all these 16 ways of thinking arise in his mind because of unmindful reflection. Unmindful reflection. When he attends unconsciously in this way, one of 6 views arise in him. It doesn't end there, but it extends in arising 6 other views. That is self-existence, as I mentioned earlier. 6 self-existence arises in him as true and established that view. Or the view no self-existence in me arises in me as true and established. Or view I perceive self with self arises in him as true and established. Or the view I perceive not self with self arises and established in him. And then, or view I perceive self with not self arises in him and established, and true and established in him. Or else he has some such view as this. It is this self of mind that speaks, feels, and experiences here, and the results of good and bad actions. Now, this is a view that Venerable Sati in Tanna Sankhya Sutta, you can see in Madhyama Nikaya, Venerable Sati said, it is the same self, same consciousness that goes from life to life. So Buddha reprimanded him and refuted his wrong will. So, but this self of mind is permanent, everlasting, eternal, not subject to change, and it will endure as long as eternity. That is eternal, eternistic view. This speculative view, because is called the thicket of views, wilderness views, the contortion of views, the vacillation of views, the fetter of views. Now, this asava turns into fetter. Fetter, there are 10, they are called samyojana. Fettered by the fetter of views, the complicated. The untaught ordinary person is not freed from the birth, aging, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. He is not freed from suffering, I say. Now, well-taught disciple is just the opposite. He doesn't have that, and therefore he will not come up, he will not suffer in samsara. Now, what turns unfit for attention are these things. And then we go to the particular step, 7 steps of overcome these things. These intoxicants. Number 1, tends to be abandoned by restraining, samvara. There are samvara, there are 5 kinds of samvara. They are called sila samvara, then okay. Sila samvara, sati samvara, jnana samvara, virya samvara, and khanti samvara. Now, sila samvara is restraining through virtues, moral principles. And it has explained the restraining through virtue is illustrated by avoiding unsuitable seats and resort, the places. Restraining through jnana samvara or knowledge is explained by repeated practice of wise consideration. Then restraining through energy is explained by removing unwholesome thoughts. That is 4 kinds of energy we have to apply. Restraining through patience is illustrated by the person enduring with patience. And restraining through the sila morality, sila samvara, restraining through mindfulness, sati-samvara, restraining through jnana, knowledge, and restraining through effort, restraining through patience. I think restraining means restrain our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. This is called Chakuna Sangaro Sadhu. Chakuna Sangaro Sadhu. Sadhu Soten Sangaro. Sadhu Dhanin Sangaro. Sadhu Jivhan Sangaro. Sadhu Kayan Sangaro. Sadhu Manasa Sangaro. Sabbat Sangaro Sadhu. Sabba Dukkha Pamuchita, Buddha said. We restrain through our, as I mentioned, don't keep eyes open to evil things. Restrain our eyes. And this kind of restraints I explain in more detail in another discourse called Vitakka, the removal of distracting thought discourse in the same book, Madhyama Nikaya. I don't have time to explain all these things now. Now we start this session from in the Sabbasva Sutta. What else bhikkhu should be abandoned by restraining? Here bhikkhu reflecting wisely abides with the eye faculty restraint, while taste relaxation, and fever right arise in one who abides with the eye faculty. Unrestrained. There are no taste, relaxation, or fever in one who abides with the eye faculty restrained. Now, when we want to restrain our eyes, we have to be very careful not to develop greed, hatred, and delusion through by seeing object. There is a discourse called Indriya Bhavana Sutta in Madhyama Nikaya. There was a man called Parasarya. One of the disciples of Parasarya came to see the Buddha. And Buddha asked him, what does Parasarya teach? He said he teaches to restrain our senses. Then Buddha asked him, how does he teach a way to restrain your senses? He said, don't look at objects. Restrain your ears, don't hear sound. Then Buddha said, well, in that case, those who are born blind, how to restrain? Because they don't see objects. Then those who are born deaf are restrained because they cannot hear. Those who are dumb, cannot talk, restrained or speech. And so forth. And then Buddha said, but in Aryasya Vinaya, the Buddha's Vinaya discipline is called Aryasya Vinaya. In noble one's training, restraining our senses means not that. How can you have good eyes, you can hear well, you have good ears, so naturally you hear sound, naturally you see object. When you see object, then be mindful not to let greed, hatred and delusion arise through the object. Object doesn't have greed. Object doesn't have greed. Object doesn't have hatred. Object doesn't have delusion. Where the greed, hatred and delusion are in our mind. So when we see object, don't let this object cause you to arise greed, hatred and delusion. Pleasant objects you see, greed can arise under any pleasant object. There is an underlying tendency called greed. In unpleasant object, there is underlying tendency of hatred, not in the object, but because its unpleasantness arises in your mind, resentment can arise. That is the underlying tendency. When you see an object, you are confused. The confusion is not in the object. You allow confusion to arise in your mind because of your unmindfulness. So, that is how Buddha taught restraining senses. This is a very beautiful discourse you can see in Majjhima Nikaya. Indriya Bhavana Sutta. Indriya Bhavana Sutta. Very beautiful discourse. So, there are no tears, relaxation or fever in one who abides with the eye faculty restrained. We restrain in this way. We restrain our eyes, through which greed should not arise. We restrain our ears, through which greed does not arise. Any hatred and illusion does not arise in our mind when we are mindful. So this is a way of training ourselves to be mindful. To be mindful. Then that is the way of abandoning some change. Then step number 2, change to be abandoned by using. What change people should be abandoned by using? Here a bhikkhu reflecting while she uses the robe only for the protection of cold, for protection of heat, for contact with gadflies, mosquitoes, wind, the sun, and the creeping things, and only for the purpose of concealing the private parts. This is the purpose of wearing clothes. Especially for monks, this is especially for monks, but this can apply for lay people as well. Of course, people have various other purposes of wearing clothes. That is why every year new fashion comes into the market, because their purposes vary from time to time, place to place, age to age, vary. Monk's purpose of wearing robes is the same all over from the time of the Buddha up to now and into the future. The same purpose. But by the way, the style doesn't change. Same style, old fashion, no new fashion. Monk, the same. I remember a lot of things about this robe when I came to this country first. Some people asked me, when they saw me on the street wearing the robe, some people come to me and ask me, why don't you wear some decent clothes, man? Because this looks like, wrapping ourselves up with a blanket. It is not decent, but it's very shabby looking. But I had many such remarks I heard when I was first, because those days there were no monks in the United States. So anyway, this is the purpose of wearing robes. with mindful reflection, we must really so, not as a treasure, not just to show off. These are the purpose. Protection from cold, sun, heat, from mosquitoes, dead flies, and so forth, and above all to cover our nakedness. Now, nakedness is not acceptable in the civilized society, except, of course, there are some ascetics in India, even today. They are fully naked. Why they are naked? Because they don't have desire even for clothes, to show their simplicity, that they don't have even a desire even for clothes. They are called nigantas. Anyway, then reflecting uses answered. This is what we recite when we eat. You might have listened to it already. Twice a day, morning and noon, we recite this. What he does, he uses answer neither for amusement, nor for intoxication, nor for the sake of physical beauty and attractiveness, but only for the endurance and continuance of the body, for ending discomfort and for assisting the holy life. Considering this, I shall terminate all feeling without arousing new feeling, and I shall be healthy and blameless and shall live in comfort. We eat this food to not to build up our muscles and go to boxing arena and punch or do some wrestling. We eat this in order to continue this body. Even Buddha ate food for ending discomfort. That means discomfort of hunger, or not introducing new pain by overeating. We should not be gluttonous. Eat sufficient amount of food. Ahare mattanyata, bhojanamika mattanyo, knowing the limit of our eating, so that we shall overcome our own feeling of hunger and not introducing new feeling by overeating, and also to make our life, holy life, comfortable. Brahmacharya Anugrahaya, to assist our brahmacharya life. Then also uses the resting places like kutis, houses, and so forth, for protection from cold, for protection from heat, and for protection from contact with gadflies, mosquitoes, wind, the sun, and increased creeping things, and only for the purpose of warding off perils of climate and for enjoying retreat. So these are the purpose of using shelter. And medicine also we use for protection from the rising affliction feeling and for the benefit of good health. So we all know that we fall sick and then we have to use medicine. And this medicine we use not for any pleasure. So, while tense vexation fever might arise in one who does not use requisite, thus there are no tense vexation or fever in one who uses them thus. These are called tastes that should be abandoned by using. And then we go to the next one. Taste to be abandoned by enduring. Enduring is abandoned something that is Khanti Samvara. What we mentioned 5 kinds of restraining. This is called Khanti Samvara. What change should be abandoned by enduring? Here a bhikkhu reflecting wisely bears cold and heat, hunger and thirst, and contact with gadflies, mosquitoes, wind, the sun, creeping things. He endures ill-spoken, unwholesome words, addition bodily feelings that are painful, racking, sharp, piercing, disagreeable, and distress, and menacing of life. Now, this is very important for everyday life, especially when we live together in a community. These things can happen. Any tiny little thing can irritate people because they don't have patience. Khanti. And the Buddha very clearly mentioned the things that we have to endure. Not only natural things like cold, heat, hunger, thirst, and contact with gadflies, mosquitoes, so forth, so on and so forth, but endures ill-spoken, unwholesome words and addition bodily feeling that are painful. Sometimes somebody can speak very unmindfully, harsh word, irritating word, racking, sharp, piercing, disagreeable, and distressing. There is a very beautiful discourse. Sometimes I like to make cross-reference to other discourses when I mention these things. There is a very beautiful discourse called Kakachupama Sutta. Kakachupama Sutta. Kakacha is the saw, cutting saw, kakacha. The simile of saw, cutting saw. It is, of course, very stark, very powerful simile. In that simile, in that discourse, Buddha says, if somebody cuts your limbs one by one, if somebody cuts your hand, start cutting fingers, then cutting wrist, whole hand. While they are cutting your hands and legs and so forth, still you should not lose your patience. Even if your lips are cut off by somebody, don't lose your patience. I mean, that of course is not possible for anybody, but Buddha went to that extent to illustrate the benefit of practicing patience, let alone any minor things. And therefore, patience is one of the best austere practice. Khanti paramantapo. Buddha said, Khanti paramantapo. Patience is the highest austere practice. Tapas means austere practice. patience. And therefore, that by practicing that patience, we can endure certain things, difficulties, and overcome our greed, hatred, and delusion. Then, next thing is tend to be abandoned by avoiding. That is Sila Samvara. Here, bhikkhu reflect wisely, avoid wild elephant, wild horse, and wild bull, wild dog, snake, stumps, and bramble pack. Then shesh, cliffs, cesspit, and sewer. Now, I heard somebody who is unmindful, did not know how to apply this way of overcoming pains the monk was practicing meditation, metta, and so forth, and he went to show the power of practicing metta, and went to a forest and met a wild elephant, and he wanted to show his power of virtue, and when near the elephant came and crushed him to death. Buddha said, don't do that. Avoid elephants, avoid tigers, cobra, python, cesspool. If you want to show your metta or virtue, do you jump into cesspool full of filth? No, avoid it. Cliffs. Don't try to show your virtue by going and standing on the edge of a cliff and meditate, you will fall asleep and fall down and kill. Don't do that. So avoid that. So wise person does not do that. Then pain to be abandoned by removing. What pain should be abandoned by removing? Here a bhikkhu reflect wisely, does not tolerate and arise an arrogant thought of sensual desire. Abandons it, removes it, does away with it, and annihilates it. He does not tolerate arrogant thought of ill will, arrogant thought of cruelty. These are the three kinds of thoughts, the opposite of right thoughts. What are right thoughts? Three right thoughts. Thought of renunciation, nekkhamma sankappa. Thought of metta, avyapada sankappa. Thought of avihimsa, compassion, avihimsa sankappa. These are three wholesome thoughts among Noble Eightfold Path. So, a thought of sensual desire is opposite of thought of renunciation. Thought of ill will is the opposite of metta. Thought of cruelty is opposite of compassion. When these unwholesome thoughts arises in your mind, by all means try to avoid them, remove them by practicing mindfulness, practice the danger of unknown desire, danger of ill will, danger of cruelty. These are dangerous thoughts, not beneficial thought, meaningful thought that gives you peace and happiness. Then tends to be avoided, abandoned by developing. This is the number 7. What are the thoughts to be developed? Reflecting. This is here a bhikkhu reflecting wisely develop the mindfulness of enlightenment factor, which is supported by seclusion, discretion, cessation, and ripening in relinquishment. This qualification repeated for the remaining 6 factors of enlightenment. Number 1 is 7 factors of enlightenment are there. Why 7? 7 factors of enlightenment are used for sleepiness and restlessness, to overcome sleepiness and restlessness. When sleepiness arises, develop the practice of mindfulness factor, energy factor, and joy factor. When restlessness and worry arises, practice tranquility factor, concentration factor, and equanimity factor. Now 6. 7th is mindfulness. Sati Sabbasva. Mindfulness balances everything. Keep looking at this side and that side, like a needle of a balance. You know, scale, when you have a scale, not this bathroom scale that we use these days, but the scale used Asian scale. Asian scale has a ball like this and 2 sticks and buckets. In the center is the needle. When you put something to this side, that side goes down, then the needle goes this way. If you put something, therefore to balance it, you got to put something here on the other basket. Then the needle will remain like it. So the mindfulness is like the needle in the center. So needle shows going this way or this way. Then you add to this side or this side according to the movement of the needle. That is mindfulness factor. That is why there are 7 factors of enlightenment. 7 factors. 3 for sleepiness and drowsiness. 3 for restlessness and worry. When restlessness and worry arises, don't practice tranquility factor, equanimity factor. Practice mindfulness, effort, joy. Like that. So, friends, this discourse also is a wonderful discourse. Complete practice of meditation, mindfulness is imbibed in this discourse. So I hope you all keep learning. I think you might have read this number 2 discourse in the Madhyamika Nikaya, number 2. You might have read it many times, but I advise you to read it again and again and digest the meaning of this discourse. Then you will be very, very happy, safe home to attain liberation. Thank you.